What's up guys, Jimmy with Andrew. Welcome back to Freshly Charged. In today's video, we've got a beast of a scooter. It's the Kaabo King GTR Max. This thing is a beast. I'm just struggling trying to keep up with Andrew. Let's go find a place we can show you the scooter. We have been having a blast with the Kaabo King GTR Max. This is the latest in their iconic flagship model. This is their fastest, most powerful scooter. And in this video, we're gonna tell you whether or not this is a revolutionary upgrade or an incremental refresh with the improvements they've made on this scooter. Andrew, what do we have?
On paper, it looks very incremental, but it seems like they resolved some of their major issues with their previous version. So let's go ahead and start with a quick walkthrough. In the center, you have the same TFT LCD display that we've seen on previous versions. Very crisp and easy to read, and also easy to navigate through the different menu functions. To access the menu, you can't do it when it's powered on. You actually have to power it off again, power it back on, and within the first 5 seconds, hold down the mode button. But very easy and intuitive to navigate through the display. You have hydraulic brake levers. These are actually connected to new brakes, and we'll show you that lower. The iconic Kaabo handlebar grips that have these wings to make it comfortable for longer rides. Light functions with turn signals and horn. And then with the dual crown forks, you have adjustable compression up top. You want to keep them even because each of them is independent of each other. A hook for hooking stuff like a bag. On the right, you have a trigger throttle, the same one we saw in the previous version. Inside of this is where the controller is placed. It's a 2-in-1 sine wave controller that's a field-oriented controller with a 100 amp output and peaks at 160 amps. Motorcycle grade horn and motorcycle grade headlights. On the side of the controller housing is where the front turn signals are located. There's one on each side. Right below this is going to be where the folding mechanism is at. Same one that you've seen on the Warrior series and the King series. A little bit challenging to use, but one of the strongest folding mechanisms that's on an electric scooter. One thing you will notice is that the scooter does get longer when you fold it. We do have the same tire that was on the previous GTR version. It's a puncture resistant, and the measurement is 100 by 55 by 7, 2000 watt motor with 180 millimeter brake disc and 4-piston hydraulic brakes. Inside the deck is where the big upgrade has happened. They've moved from LG battery cells, and it's a 72 volt, 40 amp hour Samsung 50 GB battery cells now. Underneath the deck is LEDs. When you turn on the lights, they're blue. When you turn on the turn signals, they also change to a yellow color. And on top of that, when you go to brake, they turn a pinkish purple color. Charge ports on each side. It does come with two 84 volt, 1.75 amp chargers. In total, it should take you about 12 hours to charge from empty to full. Rubberized deck with kick plate in the rear. You still have this tubular frame design, which I really love the look of. You have a tail light with the smoked out look and turn signals built into the rear. Another 2000 watt motor. In total, both motors peak at 13,440 watts, 180 millimeter brake disc with 4-piston hydraulic brakes. One thing that has changed is the deck does look bigger, and they have lowered the deck height compared to the previous GTR. So let's go ahead and get some measurements. The deck size is coming in at 24 inches at the longest part. The width is going to be 9.5 inches. And then the deck height clearance, I'll go ahead and have Jimmy tell us where that's at.
Almost 9.5 inches.
Definitely reduced in the deck height. And I didn't mind the deck height before in the past, but I know a lot of people were not happy with it because it just felt like they were coming off such a high platform. And then measuring the handlebar height from the deck, coming in at about 39 inches, and the handlebar width just slightly over 29 inches.
All right, thanks for the walkthrough, Andrew. We are now going to ride to our next stop where we're going to talk about what we love about the GTR Max.
So the traction control on the scooter is actually pretty good. When you have it in the S mode, which is their like high speed mode, it takes traction control off, and I'll show you what that looks like. Then I'll put it on their speed mode 5 with traction control, and you'll see that it actually does a great job of making sure I don't spin out too much. So here's without traction control. And now I'll dial it down so there is traction control on here now. And it still will spin out, but it's only for like 1 second rather than almost 50 feet.
Yeah, so Andrew, that's a big difference. Which do you prefer?
I kind of like living on the edge, so I like things a little bit squirrely. But if you're inexperienced or just want to have a mild, chill ride where you don't have to worry about your balance as much, it's nice to have traction control as an option.
And I can also see if you're riding in wet or snowy, icy conditions that you'd want that traction control. Let's talk about what we love about this scooter and start off with the big changes that they made from the previous version.
Big thing for me is they've upgraded the battery and hopefully the BMS. Going from LG 21700 battery cells to a Samsung 21700 50 GB battery cell is going to be a lot safer for consumers. And the big thing is I'm not 100% about the BMS, but I would assume that that has also been upgraded as well.
Some other big changes, they've decreased the height or the clearance of this scooter. One of the big complaints people had with the previous version was it was just too high, almost comically high, when especially if you're going 60 miles an hour on such a high platform, it would feel a little unstable. And so by reducing the clearance, by reducing the height, now you have a lower center of gravity and you should feel more stable, especially at high speeds.
One simple improvement that they've done that I think will make a big difference for a lot of people is the sleeving that they put around the LED lights. So now there's a dedicated hole and a protective wrapping, and what that will do is prevent that low voltage cables from being cut off and breaking. On our previous GTR, one of the LED lights came broken. They were really obnoxious to fix. With this new dedicated hole, it seems like it's going to be a lot easier to repair.
Another pain point or complaint point that people would have about this scooter is while it is very powerful and very fast, the battery seemed a little mismatched. It wasn't as big as they wanted. Now it's got that bigger battery for more range.
And then speaking about the battery, I'm glad that it's not removable. It was a great idea. I know people love the idea of having a removable battery, but to me, it just doesn't make any sense, especially on an electric scooter, because who's going to carry an extra battery in their backpack? First off, yes, I get it if you're in an office setting and you want to carry an extra battery at work, but for the most part, very few people are going to carry an extra massive battery in a backpack just because it's so heavy. The other issue is the design of how that was locked in on the previous version would end up breaking on most people's scooters, especially during shipping.
And by changing that design so that it is an integrated battery instead of an easily removable battery, you have a more durable product, and I would think it's probably more water resistant as well.
And then one big upgrade is going from 2-piston hydraulic brakes to 4-piston hydraulic brakes. Not only is it going to give you better stopping power, now the brake pads are a lot thicker than previous versions, so I do love that you shouldn't have to maintain them as much as previous versions. And then always having a little bit of extra deck size will make the biggest difference.
Those were the big upgrades that they've made on the GTR Max. Now let's talk about some of our favorite features of this scooter. A lot of them, well, basically all of them, carryovers from the previous model.
Yeah, the TFT LCD display is magnificent, very crisp and easy to read, and the menu is easy to navigate through.
The tubular design, the dual forks, the aggressive look, the gold coloring. It is just a sharp looking scooter, great for off-roading and on the road, especially now that it's got the lower height. You can really go fast and smooth on roads.
Kaabo easily makes one of the best front-facing lights on an electric scooter. They're super bright, you can adjust the angle, and then on top of having that nice bright front headlight, you also have the deck lights in the front that light up the ground in front of you. So one of the best coverages that we find on electric scooters for nighttime riding.
If you were to ever call something a stand-up motorcycle, this would be it. And it's with the dual forks, the suspension, the light, the horn. This is the closest you'll get to a stand-up motorcycle and the feel that you get from it.
Sine wave controllers are so buttery smooth, a lot better than square wave controllers when it comes down to acceleration and control, especially when it comes to modulating how fast you're going at slower speeds. You can also set a passcode in the display so that you can lock out people from turning on and off the scooter without your approval. And then the nice thing is having that traction control that you can easily turn on and off. So if you want to turn it off on all settings, you can go through the menu, turn that off, but you can also be able to access the S mode, not having traction control, but then just dial back to speed mode 5 where traction control kicks in. It's very nice that you can easily toggle between both settings without having to dive into the menu. I love that there's adjustable suspension in the front and rear. In the rear, you can adjust the rebound, and on the front, you can adjust the compression and dial it in for the types of riding that you want to do. Having puncture resistance tires with the hybrid treading is really nice because it gives you the option to switch between off-roading or street riding, and pairing that with adjustable suspension really allows you to customize your type of riding. And then this folding mechanism, although it's a little bit complicated, it's by far one of the sturdiest folding mechanisms that we've ever found on an electric scooter, and makes it nice and rigid, where there's very little movement after wrenching on this front handlebar, going off of jumps and dropping off of curbs.
And so clearly Kaabo has been listening to the community and the complaints, and they've made changes to really improve the GTR Max, but there are some areas where this can improve, and we're going to talk about that at our next stop. All right, we are here at our speed run location. It's the old abandoned road. What you doing there, Andrew?
Just seeing if coast is clear to do the speed run.
Safety first. That's our motto.
Nice, he's walking away. I'd say in about 30 seconds we can run this speed run.
Battery is freshly charged. Andrew, what can we expect?
Stated top speeds of 65 miles per hour, and I'm gonna see if I can hit it. Grip it and rip it. 18, 21, 31, 37, 46, 52, 56, 61, 65, 64.8, 66.9, 66.9 on the display, 69, I saw 69 on there, 69, oh my goodness, 69 miles per hour on the display. Okay, let's see here. All right. Oh my gosh.
All right, Andrew was cooking. Holy cow, let's see how fast he was going.
So it said 69 miles per hour on the display, but Draggy dropped off twice. This has been non-stop with Draggy, guys. So if you work at Draggy or know someone who works at Draggy and can let me know what keeps happening to my system, please let us know.
Andrew's gonna go 20 miles an hour, and then he's gonna stop right at this crack in the road. I don't know if you can see it, but it's basically right where I'm standing.
That's pretty good. I'd say that is really good, actually. 16 feet to stop from 20 miles per hour to 0. Very good, actually better than the previous version, where it was about 18 feet to stop from 20 miles per hour to 0.
Let's go over where the GTR Max can improve.
So I love that folding mechanism, but it's one of the most complex and complicated ones. I smashed my finger even though I've opened and closed these scooters over 100 times. So that's just how complex it is. If you don't know what you're doing, you can end up installing it incorrectly, and that barrel nut will just fall out and you'll end up bending the pin. If you tighten it too much, you can end up stretching the bolt and create more issues. So I wish that Kaabo could figure out a way to simplify this folding mechanism, but make it just as rock solid. There was one weird anomaly that I kept running into when I was doing the speed run. Every single time when I hit 62 miles per hour, even though it would go past that, it felt like there was a surge of power at 62. Then it would go up to 67, 69 on the display. So not exactly sure what was causing that little surge at 62, but it happened 5 times. So there is definitely something going on right at that mark on the speed level.
And we had some issues with our speed run, not with the scooter, but with our hardware that we use to track the speed runs. Our Draggy in specific was not working correctly. So we're going to do another video where Andrew's going to just take this on a real world ride and do a speed run. And so we'll give you accurate data, hopefully, if we can get our Draggy to work correctly. So make sure to look out for that video. Make sure to subscribe.
On our last Kaabo Warrior Max video, we had an excellent comment where someone said, I don't really care to know how fast the scooter goes at full battery. I want to know what it does at lower batteries like 70%, 50%, and even at like 20%. So I agree with that. And just like Jimmy said, I'm going to go ahead and do a first-person view video on the scooter to show you exactly what speeds you can expect at different types of battery levels on the GTR Max.
The turn signals continue to be an issue on these Kaabo scooters. They use this smoked out plastic to hide the lights underneath, which makes it really tough, especially during the day when it's bright out, to see that the signals are even going at all. I'd wish they would use a more clear plastic, both for the rear and the front turn signals. I do like that on the bottom they have those LEDs that match up with your turn signals and your braking, so that is another way to help let people around you know that you plan on turning or stopping. But the turn signals front and back, that needs to be improved.
So I love that Kaabo has upgraded the GTR Max to have 4-piston hydraulic brakes, but one thing is that I wish scooter manufacturers would start moving towards DOT hydraulic brakes. We're going at very high speeds, so what happens is the brake discs tend to get very hot, and by using these brakes that are used typically for bicycles, they're not really rated for high speeds over 35, 40 miles per hour.
And a couple things to be aware of with this scooter. It is not light. It's 147 pounds, almost 150 pounds. It's heavier than the previous version. And when you fold it, the handlebars and the stem, they do not lock in place once folded, which makes it really unwieldy if you're trying to lift it up. That can be remedied with a bungee or a strap. But you also have to know that when it's folded, the footprint actually gets longer, which will take up more room in your garage or wherever you plan on storing this.
And we're gonna have to address the elephant in the room with Kaabo. They have really disappointed the consumers over the past couple years when it comes to servicing like the GTR and not supplying parts when things are broken and within the warranty period. So Kaabo USA has told me that they will improve things. They've hired more people. They've taken on the after sale servicing, which a lot of dealers ended up dropping them. So hopefully they're in redemption mode and can earn your guys' trust back.
And a quick public service announcement, make sure, I mean, we pound on this video after video after video, make sure that all your bolts are tightened. And I would even go a step further. You can Loctite your bolts and make sure you always carry with you some sort of tools, just in case you find yourself out in the field and you need to do some work on your scooter.
And this may just be a personal preference, but I would think that when you upgrade a flagship electric scooter, it should be able to go faster than the previous version.
All right, final question. Who should get the Kaabo King? Oh, that's another thing. These names are getting a little ridiculous, all right? Kaabo, King, Wolf, Warrior, GTR, Max. I mean, come on. Let's just make it a little bit easier for us reviewers to say these names. But who should get this? I think if you are a huge fan of Kaabo, rest assured, they're making the changes to improve their customer service and their warranty. On top of that, if you want a scooter that is faster and more stable on the roads, then check out this newly upgraded Kaabo King GTR Max.
Kaabo's my first love. It was my first taste of a hyper electric scooter, and I really love the improvements that they've made on the scooter. So if you love riding on off-road trails, on streets, having the versatility to go between whatever types of riding you want to do, the Kaabo GTR will fulfill that need.
So check out our full written review at freshlycharged.com. Thanks for watching, and when you guys ride, wear your safety gear.